Hi, welcome to Vantage Point. I'm Kathleen Taylor and I'm a co-host for the program. And I'm also the clinical social worker providing mental health counseling in the medical center. So today's topic is coping with now. And that is certainly what I'm trying to do right now. As you know, usually I'm sitting here with my co-host, Marcia Boyles, which we've been doing for the last 4 years, preparing to have a nice, relaxed conversation about a topic that we enjoy and hope the audience will enjoy as well. And today I'm at the table by myself. And I am feeling very uncertain and a little awkward because Marcia usually does the opening and I just sort of sit and smile and wait for her to ask me a question. So our reality is that our now is massive change. The coronavirus has really changed our lives overnight. And certainly the social distancing and other measures that we're taking are really, really important to keep ourselves and others as safe as possible. But it definitely has made some changes for us. But the good news is that we've been able to use the magic of technology and the skills of our staff here at Channel 6 to be able to bring Marcia in. And I think she's right here right now. Hi, Marcia.
Well, hi. Good morning, Kathleen.
This is really weird, huh?
That's exactly what I would call it, but we're certainly tapping into the technology of the moment.
Yes.
This, we should tell folks, probably is via Zoom, that I am in my apartment, and I can hear you, but I only can see you if I have eyes in the back of my head. You will be able to see, when you see me, the TV is on.
Right. It's interesting. Well, it's definitely different, and we will be challenged, I'm pretty sure, and we might, not be perfect, because we usually are very perfect.
Well, I was just going to say, and of course, that we always are perfect. Yes, I know. No, we may not be, and this is, we haven't tried this yet, so we'll see how it works. I hope it works well.
I do too, because we might be doing it for a while.
Yes, I dare say we might.
Because we don't want to give the program up.
No, and in fact, we're scheduled next week.
That's right. So we had talked about the fact that it's curious that we started to have shows about change in the last month or so.
That's right. We have had 2 shows in the last 2 months, in February and March. We had our That's Life program and the Vantage Point program, and both involved change. Little did we know when we picked those topics to address in terms of how we can adapt to change, the kind of and extent of change that was coming in the future, like now.
Yes, yeah, I know. A totally different level than we had anticipated, for sure.
Exactly right. Absolutely, this feels very, very different than anything any of us have ever seen in our lifetime.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, I think that's part of what makes it so much harder is it's so unpredictable. We've not had any previous experience, as far as I would think most of our audience, and that we really don't know how long it's going to be before we can get back to, I don't even know what normal is going to look like after this. We could have fundamentally changed the way that we live in the world. So we had talked before when we had the show on change about how our bodies are really hardwired to respond to change, as if it were a threat, a danger to ourselves, and it really activates our survival skills. And when people are starting to find themselves a little bit on edge right now, maybe a little bit nervous about what to expect, how to live their lives now, might be finding themselves even a little bit irritable, that That's their body's reaction to stress. That's the fight or flight reaction. And so part of our challenge in being able to know that we may very well be in this situation for the long haul is to be able to deactivate that stress reaction, because if it continues, it will not be healthy or constructive. So that's why we want to talk a little bit about how we do that, and how we can also create resilience for people, an ability to be flexible in the moment to all the things that are happening that are different and uncomfortable around you, to be able to have constructive adjustments that allow you to continue to still have a good quality of life and a sense of well-being.
Yes, Kathleen, you certainly can provide some help in that area. And I should also probably tell our viewers that in the past 5 days, I sent out a survey to everybody on my email list, about 50 people, and asked several sort of basic questions. Firstly, how are you feeling? What is your mood? What is your state of mind? And secondly, are you behaving differently? And what kinds of strategies and activities are you using to try to minimize your own stress level? Mm-hmm. So today, I think as the program goes on here, I will interject some of the results, at least of state of mind, and some of the new behaviors that we might be exhibiting. We'll wait for, I think, until next week to talk about some of the kind of innovative strategies that people are employing faced with this new reality.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what we had discussed before too is that we are engaged in a process. You know, this is the world changing in real time and us adapting in real time. So the reactions that people have now, where it's all new, could very well have changed if we were to do another survey in a couple of months or whatever too.
I think even possibly a couple of days. I think maybe what we will plan to do, if we're continuing with fairly frequent programs, is to send out fairly frequent surveys. Mm-hmm. Now, I should also add, particularly as a former academic, that I did not do this in any kind of a scientific fashion. So these are totally unscientific surveys.
Okay, we'll accept that disclaimer.
Thank you.
So I think that one of the things that we want to really think about is that with all these changes, knowing that when you are reacting, when your survival skills are engaged and you have your stress response going, you are basically cut off from your thinking brain, and you are into your reactive emotional brain. And so as a result, if you stay in that state, you're not really going to be able to use the executive skills that you have, the problem solving, the analytical skills. You're not going to be able to kind of modulate your mood as well. You might be more easily unsettled, more upset. So
and this is when people describe their state of mind as unfocused, scattered.
Exactly. Your prefrontal cortex is not engaged. It is as we say, your lizard brain. It's reacting emotionally to things. And so we know that that's not sustainable with good results, at least. So that's something that we want to talk about. That we intentionally work to change our behaviors to bring the thinking brain back online, so to speak. But to begin with, I think we really need to acknowledge that this is such normal behavior. This is such a normal reaction. People feeling upset, just really totally maybe anxious, fearful.
Nervous, Depressed in some cases.
Yeah.
They're saying unsettled, insecure.
Yeah.
Are all words that residents were using in their replies to me.
Yeah, I mean, normally, we expect that the world is going to be knowable to us, that we understand how it works, and that we have enough knowledge to be able to deal with it. What's going on right now is the complete and total opposite of that. So it absolutely makes sense that people are going to feel emotional distress at these times until already, with the news of the coronavirus, we're getting more information. So hopefully, that's going to settle us down a little bit. The information is not necessarily good information. I mean, in the sense that it's going to be over with soon and, there's going to be a magic cure and all of that. But at least we have a little bit of a better idea about what's happening and what to expect.
A little more predictability.
Well, I don't know about predictability, but at least in the moment we sort of understand what's going on. But I think that, we don't like to see ourselves as out of control. We don't like to see ourselves as maybe fearful or uncertain. That's not the image that most of us like to keep in our heads. And so when I say this, that really part of what people need to do is accept and acknowledge some of these fears. It's an important thing, because I think if you don't, they're still there. The fact that you don't acknowledge them doesn't mean that they're not still there. And you're not going to be able to adapt constructively. You're not going to recognize what they are, how you're experiencing them physically and emotionally. So just to say, it's completely normal to be worried and frightened. I will say, I am not, feeling great right now, because, outside of just this point in time right now where this routine that Marcia and I have created is no longer in existence, that's the case all over my life, all over all of our lives. And grief is kind of part of that reaction too, because all of the things that keep us grounded and anchored in our lives, all of the routines, all of the expectations that we have about our lives and how they're going to proceed, all of the people in our lives, all of the things that we normally do, all of that is gone, or pretty much all of that is gone. And we miss that so much. So we really, need to accept that, and then we can move forward from that. We can, start to go, okay, this is what's going on, but there are ways that we can move forward and be able to establish another sense of routine and a new set of expectations that are going to help us feel more in control.
Okay. Yes, certainly our old routines absolutely are out the window.
Yep. So the first thing that I really want to talk about is how to bring your thinking brain back online, which means, that we are able to intentionally get back into our thinking brain. And that's going to allow us to think more clearly, and to be able to balance our emotions and to problem solve and develop the workarounds that we are going to need to be able to develop to be able to continue to feel like we have a good life. So one of the things that you just start out with is sort of adjusting your attitude towards change. Since we know that our bodies are hardwired to react to change as a bad thing, we need to think about changing that way of responding to be able to feel like change is okay. And as I've said before, a lot of times when we're reacting, we're very black or white about the way we think. This is good, this is bad. But you know what? We're in the middle right now, for sure. And we need to figure out how to live in the middle in terms of, being emotionally stable, being able to think things through, not continuing to judge the now as somehow less than the before. Our lives were great before, now they're horrible. But to be able to retain that balance. So ways that we talk about to be able to keep your brain, your thinking brain, kind of engaged is to slow things down, to take a minute to not react right away to what's going on, but to stop, think, breathe if you can breathe slowly, and that should allow your brain time to, go from that reactive mode to a more constructive, clear, focused mode.
Kathleen, could I stop you just for
Yep.
a moment? I think any of us who have done breathing exercises know that it is a very simple thing to do, and that it acts almost immediately to calm oneself.
Yep.
Would you just show very quickly what that looks like?
Well, the kind of the deep breathing, which is the diaphragmatic breathing, is really just kind of being very intentional about paying attention to how you're breathing. So you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth.
And that's really all you have to remember.
That really is. Now, I'll throw something into it that I've really started to work on more, and maybe we'll probably talk about this again, but there's another breathing sequencing that's actually more for anxiety, and it involves breathing in for 4 seconds, so for a count of 4, holding your breath for a count of 7, and blowing out for a count of 8.
Now, does it matter where you take it in and where you breathe it out?
You breathe in for 4.
No, but I mean mouth versus...
It doesn't really matter, but normally I think it just naturally, I don't know, some people may be mouth breathers. I guess that's possible. But in general, people breathe through their nose and out through their mouth. But no, I don't think that focusing on that is important, is just the sequence. And that really, that holding your breath for 7 seconds shuts down a physical reaction that really contributes to anxiety. So that's something to think about too.
Oh, okay.
The other thing that we need to be intentional about is to think positively, to generate positive thoughts, because stress intensifies our negative thinking. We're on the alert for the bad things that might do us harm. So we really have to work to avoid that. And those are the times when we, talk about the obvious, like turn off the news. Certainly turn off the news about, all of the sort of scary things that are happening.
You mean to say there's some other news?
Well, no. I mean, that's true. Well, you can go to another programming. You can go to the Nature Channel. You said that, people are doing the Nature Channel, which I think is a great alternative. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if you're finding yourself, if you're communicating with people who are particularly anxious and you can't kind of help them to calm down, I really think, it's not good for anybody to spend a lot of time around other anxious people, just in the way that I don't think it's good for you to spend a lot of time in your own anxious brain. So I think that, whatever you can do to avoid anxious situations as much as possible is a great idea.
Well, you have said that anxiety that anxiety can be contagious.
It is contagious. I mean, that's what, they're talking about. Everybody's wondering why there's such a toilet paper shortage. It's because apparently, I think people went shopping and saw one person with their cart full of toilet paper, and it kind of activated their anxiety. They had to run and get toilet paper too. So it really ends up being very contagious. It's funny, but it's not funny, Well,
that's exactly right. All right, so being around of course we can't be around other people, period, but even talking to other people with very high anxiety. I think it feels like it is contagious.
Yeah, and I mean, you can do your best if you're talking to somebody to kind of model a calming influence to them. That would be a really kind thing to be able to do. If you can help them slow their thinking down, you know, kind of slow the way that you're responding to them down and use a nice low tone. Those are ways that you can actually help deactivate a person. And if you're able to be successful, like I said, that's a really, really important thing that you can do to help a friend or a family member.
Well, and of course you have to do it to yourself first.
You do have to do it, and that is one of the things that I want to talk about, you know, in terms of self-care, is how to take care of yourself and slow your own self down and nurture yourself. Before I do that, I wanted to talk, you know, after you're kind of in your thinking brain and you're able to problem solve and think things through, since we are creatures of habit and we do love our routines, build new routines into your life. You're not going to be able to do the same things that you always did, but you're able to create new routines. So certainly, you know, establish healthy habits, you know, start your day out, you know, in a good way with a breakfast or exercise or meditation or yoga or whatever, you know, works for you in terms of kind of grounding and getting yourself in a good steady state. And then whatever other things that you can plan your day, you know, plan for pleasurable activities. You know, do you want to incorporate some new learning? You know, how are you going to do that?
One of the things that residents are telling me again on this little survey was the fact that they're really actually thoroughly enjoying the peace and quiet, that it is now allowing them to do things like clean out their closets and clean out drawers, clean out their computer files, do some reading.
Yeah.
So I am certainly seeing some very constructive kinds of things that folks are doing.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because it's constructive and it also meets an emotional need, because that tidying up and being organized again reinforces the idea that you have control over your universe in some kind of way. So it's really, you know, it's a twofer, so it's really good.
Yes. Now, after one gets one's closet, you know, immaculate and drawers and such things, then it will be interesting to see, you know, what new things you can find to retain that sense of control.
Yeah, well, probably a lot of people have a stack of books that they want to read, but I mean, also, you know, just really whatever makes you happy, but it is going to have to be intentional, because if you're tending to kind of get anxious and maybe fall into some anxiety or depression, it's going to take extra energy to motivate you and you know, allow you to be able to initiate you know, those healthy responses. So we had said you know, the idea of being able to take care of yourself, you know, really pay attention to your body. In terms of, are you starting to build up tension? Are you starting to feel tense? Because those are going to be the telling signs that you really need to work a little bit harder at, you know, doing some relaxation exercises again, going to yoga. You know, there's different techniques you can use for this. I might ring a bell with some people, but grounding exercises that just bring you into the present, relaxation techniques, visualization, imagining yourself on a beach somewhere or your favorite place. Those are different things. You mentioned you know, just talking to yourself in an affirmative, positive way. That's a great thing to do. You know, you can, you know, saying things like, you know, this too will pass, I'm doing great, you know, I'm going to be okay. Whatever it is that you feel, you can be that voice inside of your own head that says everything's going to be okay. And then, of course, you know.
Now, do most people have experience doing that?
I think a lot of people do. Yeah, I think a lot of people do. That kind of, the positive psychology, affirmation, validation, those kind of techniques are pretty much out there in kind of the self-help world. So I think that people who have thought about that in the past may know about that. And certainly to be able to share that with, people you're in contact with is a great idea as well. And then, of course, social distancing. We're at a time when we probably most need our friends, our family. We're not able to physically be near them. And so all of the different ways that people are finding to connect is going to be just so important. And I think it's kind of cool because people that never FaceTime before, people that never Zoomed before, maybe never did any of the other social kinds of ways to connect. They're doing it now, and they're really excited about it. So,
well, I think all of us who are just beginning to use Zoom and FaceTime, either on our computer or our cell phones or our tablets, are finding that it is much more satisfactory as a means of communication than just a phone call.
Yeah.
Being able to see the person. Now, Zoom has the capacity to have many people in on a conversation. It's used in business, and you can literally put 200 people on and be able to see all 200.
Yeah, so if you have 200 people in your family, that Zoom is for you, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, for large families.
Yeah, though people are doing that. Well, we're running, amazingly, as we always say, we're running out of time, but I did want to wrap up with something that I think is really important, because as you had said, with this slowing down, we really have a chance. We can get caught up in the busyness of our lives, the doing things, that this actually gives us, this slowing down gives us an opportunity to think about what our priorities are, reflect on what's important to our lives. Certainly, I think we're seeing, the things that we miss most and what importance they have in our lives. And I think, another really important thing, although we, are socially distanced, we as human beings have a common purpose right now, that we're going through this together, and we share that experience. And I think, the other thing that even though we're having to go through all these changes and these restrictions and the way that we live our lives, that's for a common purpose too, because I think Dr. Burks, the person that comes on with when they're doing the briefings about the virus, made it very clear the other day that the thing that is going to be best able to save lives right now is human behaviors and our willingness to maintain these restrictions and these social distances, because that's the way that the virus is going to be mitigated as well as possible. And that can help give us, we're doing this for a purpose. It's not just because somebody told us to do it.
Yeah.
It's for a very, very good purpose. So that's, I think, I have 1 minute left to wrap it up. Another thing to think about that we can get into more in terms of what happens in these disaster situations is that studies have shown that a lot of positive growth can come from them, that we learn things, that under these situations that we may not have been able to learn in any other kind of way, and that we will become more resilient, and we will have an increased connection to others, and maybe a renewed sense of what our purpose is in life. So there's good things that are going to come out of this. Maybe not right now, it's hard to see, but we will grow as people.
Well, I think on that helpful note, and rather optimistic note, for sure. And I think a whole new and different and stronger sense of community.
Mm-hmm. I think so. And probably when we get back to our more normal lives, really, even much more gratitude over what we have.
one of the primary results of my survey was a third of the people pointed out how grateful they were to be at Green Spring.
Exactly.
How much it enhanced their sense of security and safety.
Oh, that's perfect. That's a great way to end, because that's really true. That security and safety is everything right now.
Yes, it is.
All right. So we're going to do another show next Wednesday, right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Talk to you later.
All right.
All right.